Hi there, I'm Abdul Basi. Let's make a simple machine learning model to find out the employee attrition. So let's go to the code. So when we are going to the code, first of all, what should we do? We should mount our Google Drive, because I'm doing this in a Google Collab. So drive, mount the drive, and then import pandas, numpy, matplotlib, and also cbun. After that, give the matplotlib inline and set the SNS cbun style to white grid and matplotlib to 53080. Now next we should read the data frame. So that is the pd dot read csv. Give your drive location, so it will read cdf dot head. Let's see what it is, what have it read. We can see the dataset is been loaded, where there is all the columns and rows. So next what we are going to do is we are going to check how many attrition counts are there. So to do that, I'm going to use the SNS dot count plot. So in that count plot I should pass the column attrition, and then it should have a data column which is showing for the data frame. So in this one we can see the yes column has a count of 210, somewhat like that, and the no column has like more than 1200 counts. So next, after we can do some more data exploration, like we can do def dot describe. So it will show the means, max values, minimum values, and the count for all the columns. After doing these data explorations, now we can drop the unwanted columns. So like in this dataset, if you find some columns are like unwanted, if we take for example like the employee number, employee count, those are not needed. So not needed data should be removed from the dataset. So to that I should have def dot drop. I'm going to drop the data frame. What I'm going to drop is employee count. It should go in array, employee count. So after giving those data, and we should tell what should it delete. It should delete the column. So axis is 1, and then in place true. So what in place true does is it modifies the data frame. So after we run those, we can see the data frame. So like we can see it's dropped the employee count, all those things are not there. So next what should we do is we should see the types of the data, because when we are training a machine learning model, it should be in should contain numbers, right? So it cannot contain object types. So now let's see what are the types in the data frame. So for that we should use d types. So if we type d types, we can see what are the data frame types. We can see integer, but iterations, business travel, or others are object. So we should, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an array and iterate to the data frame and store all the objects in a different array. So for that one, let's make an object. Now make a for loop for columns in the data frame dot data frame columns. So from that one we are going to check if the data frame column is equals column dot d type, that is equals to an object, right? So if it's an object, I am going to append it for the object column. So that object column, object array dot append, what I'm going to append is the column. So after running this, we can see what is the object array, what the object array contains. So object array, so we can see it contains all the object types in the data. So next what we are going to see is like the iteration, the final output column is also an object. So let's see how it contains in the data frame df. Yeah, so we can see it's yes or no, so we should not contain yes or no, it should be 1 or 0. So let's convert it to ones and zeros. Convert to 1 and 0. So like I'm just converting only this one right now to show you. So let's take the data frame iteration column. So this one, what it does is it replaces the iteration column with the modified one. So df dot iteration dot as type, so it's going to give inside category category dot cat dot codes. So after we run this, now let's check what's the data frame for iteration again. So we can see it's changed to 1 and zeros. So now let's do for the other columns in the column array list, which we already have done. So now what should we do, because we have already done it in the column array, so we should remove the iterations from the column array. So object array, from the object array. So object array dot remove, we should give the name, what should we remove. So now we have removed the iteration column, iteration thing, and now what should we do, we should change like we should transform others also to a like scalable, we should scale the other data. So now let's scale it. So when we are scaling, we should import from a Sklearn dot preprocessing import label encoder. So we should import the label encoder. From that we are going to create a variable called label, and we are assigning it for label encoder. So now we should iterate through the object array and then transform all the data for the data frames in the data frame column. Like, so first of all make a for loop for so in that one we should take data frame, so we are replacing that by the transform data. So label dot fit transform. So what we are going to transform, data frames column, right? So now after we have completed this, we can print it. Column, no, we don't need to print it. Let's run and see what's happening. So after we did it, let's print the data frame and see what's there. Yeah, so we can see the data frame is changed. Like So the attrition has changed, the gender is changed from male to female to 1 to zeros, and also the department is changed. Yeah, you can see it, right? So that is the data transformation. We have done the data scalings. So like next is the thing which we should do for training the data, which first of all we should split the data for training and testing. So now let's split the data. So we should import the train test split. So you can refer the documentation for this to get a more idea. So first of all, I'm naming as x is equal to a data frame, and I'm dropping the iteration column because that's the target variable. I'm going to remove that one for the x, and so axis is 1, and for the y I'm going to give data frame dot attrition, the output, the final output column. And next what I'm going to do is we are going to make x train and x test, next y train, y train, and y test, sorry, y test. So that is equals to the train test split. So we are going to use the train let split. We are going to use x comma y, which we have defined on the top, and also give the test size as 70-30 ratio, so 0.3, and set the random state E for around like 50. So you can play with, so you can change the test size if you want, like 80-20. So after this, let's run this module. What happened? So it ran. So next the thing is we should do make a evaluation function. So to evaluate the module we need to make a function, or you can do it in a different, like within the code line, but if you make a function it's easy for you because you don't need to repeat the code line multiple times. So let's create let's make a function. So now because I have already implemented the function, so what I'm going to do is I'll just paste it and I'll explain it for you. So from Sklearn matrices you should include import accuracy, confusion matrix, and also the classification reports. So from that one we are going to make a function called print score. So it takes parameters like the classifier, which is the model, the x training data, y train, x test, and y test. So we should pass it, and we are mentioning it as a true or false. So when it's true, we are if we mention it's true, we are just taking the training data. So that's what, if true, we are just training for the making the matrices, we are taking the evaluation for the training data. If we mention it as false, we are taking for the testing data. So after you adjust your parameters in the model, and you just can, if you want to evaluate the model for each of the model which you have done, you just can call this function. So now what we are going to do is create the model, then only we will be able to evaluate the model how it's doing. So let's create the model. So from this, first of all, from Sklearn dot tree, so we should import the decision tree classifier. So after importing the decision tree classifier, so I'm creating a variable called model equals to the decision tree classifier. So in this decision tree classifier I'm going to pass the random state. So random state as a 52 example, you can play with this around. So after passing the random state, I am going to fit my classifier, fit the model with the X training data. So model dot fit. So what I'm going to pass is x train and y train. So after I pass this, the model will be created eventually. Yeah, so the model is created. It's using Gini indexes. So there are other kind of things which entropy, information gain, those can be used. So you can check the documentation for that. In my case, I'm using this one. So now let's print the accuracy and let's see how the module works. So let's call the print score function which we have already created up here. So we can call the print score function. So in this print function we are going to pass the model, and what we are going to pass next is the x train, right? X train, y train, and x test, y test. After that we are going to pass it as true because we are just testing for we are getting the print for the training data. So it will be 100% eventually because we are just testing for the training data. Now let's test for the testing data. So for testing for the testing data, so we are going to use this as false, right? So if it is false, it will work. So we can see, yeah, the accuracy is 79.14%, which is a pretty good accuracy. So we can improve this accuracy by changing the criteria, the model evaluation times, and also changing the random states by changing these Gini indexes to entropy or something. In a real world, how this classifier will look. So for that one we need the image and string IO and the scale from Sklearn and also pi dot. So yeah, so first of all I'll just import all those things. So after importing those things, like next what should we do is take the features, make a feature variable. So in this one what it should contain is a list. What's the list column? def dot, it should be the data frame. From the data frame it should be the columns for the data frame. So the feature, so it will be like this. So from that one we should dot remove, right? From that one we should remove the column. So from that one I'm going to remove the target one. So after that we can see it's removed. Oh yeah, so sorry, there's an extra space. So now we are going to take dot date. Dot data is equal to string IO. From that now we are going to create export graph with. So in this method we should pass the model, and also we should pass the out file. So the out file is the dot data, and next we should pass the feature. So feature names, right? For the feature names are the features. Sorry. So it's a feature and field is true. So next what we are going to do is make the graph. Graph is equals to pi dot graph from dot data, right? So the graph from the dot data, and we are going to, this is a method, so we are going to pass the dot data dot get values, simple v value if I spell it right. Yeah. So from that, after that, what should we do is next show the graph in an image. So I'm going to use image. So that image has we should pass our graph. We should pass our graph as index 0, then we should put dot, and what we should want our graph to be a PNG. The graph is showing. So like if we zoom into this, like we can see it's taking Gini index. So when the Gini index is 0 means it's a leaf node, it's already pure. So we can see the value as 30. So if it's having two values like 5 and 21, so like the Gini, it's become pure. So thank you for listening. So I'll try to make another video machine learning models in future.